Howdy, everyone. Matt here again. Want to talk to you about something I've thought about for quite a while, and even did a video on my other channel about this. And I do think it's worth to be discussed and talked about. And that's research. And just a couple different areas about it that I think could be interesting to talk about. Now, I'm going to say for myself, I find that when we do research, when there's research that is published, that's a good thing. That it does help shape our profession. It drives our profession. It helps us be better because we're getting these things that says, this can help people and this can, help people with that, and or this is how people are, things like that. I know, again, like I said, I do find it's very useful, and I do like to read it and discuss it with people. I'm probably not, the most I don't even know what the word would be. I just don't read it like every single day, but looking at articles and understanding those articles and do that. But I want to talk about a couple areas with research, and I want to start off first with our patients. Do we really think that patients care about knowing about research? I know there's that thing that I've seen advertised for quite a while. People say we're evidence-based. We're evidence-based. And they use that in their advertising to the public. We're an evidence-based practice. I'm an evidence-based provider. But I would say, do people really care about that? Really, do they care? Because here's something that came from the book, Thinking Fast and Slow, that it said in there that if you tell somebody a statistic, they just think, oh, that's a cool fact. But they don't really take it in. And if say this applies to me, they mostly apply their beliefs and what's going to, I would say with therapy, what would help them is their past experiences. So for example, we could have a research study that says hey, doing this exercise right here, 68% of the people who've done it get better. You have a significant decrease in pain and stuff like that. But does a patient really care about that when they're in the office and in hurting? To say okay, well, if you do this, you're going to get better. Well, they're no. My experience is when I do the heat and that shocky thing, that I feel that's going to help me the most. Do you think they really, really care about that? I would probably say as well, do we really need to let people know, hey, this is what the research says on this? I've kind of wondered that talking about with patients. I know it myself with my practice, talking to patients and mentioning something. It's hey, there's evidence that shows that this helps with that. Sometimes people seem to care. Other times they don't seem to care. It seems to work very well if the person does have a science background. There's occasionally, I get engineers, and they do like that. They do like that science behind it. So there's people there, but I see a vast majority that oh, okay, that's 70% of it. Oh, okay, that's not. Oh, okay, cool. So. And I think that also goes off do people understand research? Does the majority of the population understand research? And that was something I talked about in my other study or my other video, that people may not be able to break down a study. And I know a few years ago I know I'm not going to mention it, but we know what happened a few years ago, that there was so much stuff getting thrown around. I remember, my experience, this guy I knew from high school just kept throwing out these different, studies out there about this thing and that thing and this thing. And I said, finally, I was dude, do you understand like how to break down and tell if this is a good article or not, because you're spouting this stuff off. But, looking at it, it looks like it came from a predatory journal. Like, he didn't know any of that. He just thought because it's out there, like, oh, it's good. And I had to let him know that, and that's another thing he said. He said that, he's like, I feel like providers, so, like doctors, nurses, physical therapists, I guess, you need to keep up with you need to keep up with that. It's your fault for not keeping up with it. I was like, yeah, we try our best to do it, but one, we're working a whole lot, and two, you're wading through a lot of it. So yeah, those studies that you're throwing out you think are great, but they're really not. Like, the moment we see it is like, no, that's not real. But it's like, does the average person really actually understand it? Are they going to look and dissect it? I mean, also, I think, do people really trust findings at times? Again, I think that also goes back over to their personal experience. So if my personal experience, like we're doing rehab, is like, well, when I've done like heat and stem, we'll talk about that. Like heat and stem, they've done passive stuff and they felt better. But if you come in and tell them, well, you need to be active and doing this over that, well, I don't really know about what that study said. I'm not unsure about it. So, I mean, I kind of wonder that, like, do people really trust what that stuff says? Because again, like what their experience is in the past versus what we're telling them over there. So I don't know. I do think that, again, I just think that is something interesting. And I do find, and I do say this, that I think we as a profession need to quit throwing out, study numbers and, the finding. I think we need to really quit throwing out as much of that out, because again, people don't really care. And I say this, like, it comes off as too nerdy. That may be kind of harsh, but it's like, really, like, again, we go, 2/3 of people do this, and 68% of people do this, and 48, like, do they really care about a lot of that? Do they really care about seeing those numbers, or is it more, again, their personal experience that they're going to weigh over that? And I also talk about with research, like with us as a profession. Like I said, I do find research is great. It does drive a lot of what we do, and it changes a lot of what we do, and it really helps us. But I wonder this at times as well. Do sometimes we get so focused? There are therapists out there that are just so focused just on what evidence shows, that this research shows this and this and this, for like the knee, for example, just this, that they lose sight of what the patient experience is, so what the patient wants and desires and needs. And I've seen that a few times. Had some therapists, again, I've talked to and worked with a lot of people that they were just so up to date on all the research, and really did that carry over to really, really good care and being able to communicate that stuff with patient, and also take in what the patient is saying. To say, like, well, I understand that you're telling me to do this, but again, my experience is this. And do we have to have a balance with that? Do we need a balance between what the evidence says and what patients experience? And I'm not even saying it's a balance where it's like 50-50 on it, because I have heard, it was a talk that Chad Cook gave about, patients, when patients are given like a menu board of options for treatments, that they often don't pick the best ones, meaning that their outcomes aren't very good. So I'm not saying that they're making poor choices, but it's like they're going off of what they feel it is compared to the expert opinion to say, okay, based upon what you got going on, I know these choices are going to be better for the long term. So what is that, like, happy medium on it? I mean, I know for me, I would say one is probably just knowing your patients, which we know our patients pretty well, but just knowing how to talk to them. If it is somebody who may not understand research in general, like what it says and how to discern it and, look through it. Like maybe we don't talk about it a whole lot, and it's just like, okay, we just do these things. They may not even know, and they don't even know. I mean, I do believe that. I've done that with people. It's like, I don't have to tell you, okay, well, there was these 15 studies that found this. We're like, no, we're going to do this. How you feel? How is it just doing? The patient, oh yeah, I feel good. And it's like, oh, for me, it's like, oh, okay, good. It worked. And maybe even later, some of them just talk about like, yeah, there is evidence that shows if you do like it helps. And, or again, if a patient is receptive to discussing and talking about that type of stuff, again, we having that interaction and letting them know, or if somebody really wants to know as well, like, well, why aren't we doing this? Well, it's like, okay, well, we can talk about that evidence now that, a lot of stuff has come out to say that there is this and this and this that would be better for you. That probably is really, really what you need. So we may want to go over to this area a little bit first. But I mean, like I said, research is a good thing, but I wonder just about how we just like to throw it around so much. I know when we argue, we like to slap down papers in front of one another about like, oh, this is what this says, this is what this says. And like, we're just putting all that down. And again, I would even say for his therapist, there's therapists out there that disregard what evidence says. That, hey, look at this evidence here, and they can pull up like, no, here's evidence to support what we do over here. And so no, and also I get this too, that we also look at our patients' experiences as well. Like that's the thing to say, like, yes, I know you're saying that this evidence over here is what to do and what I'm doing is wrong, but looking at my own patient population, the people I see, like, I feel like I get good results. Now that also can come down to, are you being objective as a therapist to understand if what you are doing is good or not, and not being biased and being like, no, everything I'm doing is just wonderful and amazing, and you're just disregarding for people who are not getting better. But it's an interesting thing, and I do think sometimes we like to draw. I know within therapists we draw our divisions about like, you're like this and you're thinking like this, but overall, I feel like when it comes to that stuff, like we need to be open and talk about it between one another. And again, it's just going to trickle over to patients as well. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below. Just talk about it. Just talk research. Again, like I said, I find it very good. Don't misquote me on that. I find research is very beneficial. Very, very wonderful. It helps guide a lot of stuff. And I do like learning new things. And it's really nice when you learn something new from a study, and then you happen to get a patient not too long after. He's like, let me try this stuff over here. Let me try this. And let me see how this does on it. So that's always kind of fun. And then I may mention, yeah, I just read a paper on that, and we do this, and the patient's, oh, that's really cool. So again, it's kind of picking and choosing, but there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Talk about it down below. So yeah, let me know. If you enjoy the stuff, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, of course, I'm going to be posting funny videos and all that stuff and having these discussions as well. Just post them down below. Talk to you all next time.